Hello, Steve Malmgren, Senior Director of Architecture, MAS200, back again for more customizer sessions. So what we're going to do today is add a territory field to the customer table. That's a field that we don't currently track in MAS90. So that we can do some sales analysis. We're going to add it also to the ship to address file and show you how to kind of flow that information from customer all the way through data entry to the invoice history table, so you can do some sales analysis using BIE on it. So I'm going to start out by adding a territory table. We've covered UDTs in previous sessions, and these are some of the ones that we've already added, but we haven't done a system table yet. So I'm going to go ahead and double-click this, and you'll see that there's no standard MAS90 system tables. And just for review, or system tables are things like the user table, the role table, security, and stuff like that. We don't allow you to add user-defined fields to our system tables, but we do allow you to add user-defined tables that are system-wide. So the important distinction between a system UDT and a module-specific one is that the system user-defined tables and the fields in them will be available to all companies. So you can set up one table and have it accessible to all companies. So I'm going to go ahead and there's a few ways to do it. I can double-click on this to add a UDT. I can right-click on the System Tables node and say Add User-Defined Table, or I can come over here and click on this Add a UDT button. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a territory UDT. We'll default it to the 10 bytes. That's fine. And I'll just go ahead and add a territory description. Okay, and once again, this is updating all the dictionaries, adds it to the Business Insights reporter view, so now you can go ahead and run a report. So, same options as any other user-defined table. I can maintain the data, add it to the desktop. I'll go ahead and do that. And once again, that puts it under the customizer UDT maintenance, so now I can get to that table right here. And you can assign security to it, so if you only want certain users to get to it. I'm going to come back here and go ahead and maintain some data. And so you don't have to watch me do all this. I'll add a couple, and then I'll break out and do the rest of them. So I may want to have like a Eastern Seaboard, Western States. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take a break. I'll fill in the rest of these. Another thing about user-defined system tables is that if you're doing these at your office for a customer, you can go ahead and send the entire table with data already populated as well. So you can set that up for them and include that in the customizer export routine. So go ahead and accept out of here. And now we'll go into customer maintenance, and we'll go ahead and add that field. So you see I got quite a few user-defined fields in here. I'm going to go ahead and add territory. And once again, manual entry and business object. You can think of manual entry as really the source that you're typing the field into. So this is the first place that the data gets to. The business object is used for more of a process. So it's when I'm either something like sales order maintenance, when I type in a customer, that process of bringing default information from customers into the sales order will be done via business object. Similarly, like a report or an update, those are strictly processes because there's no way for you to type that information in. So we'll leave that at manual entry. And on the validation tab, we'll go ahead and validate that against that system user-defined table. It'll be seen as a data source available to the customer table, and I'll be able to put that description on the form as well. Okay, so we've got it added to the customer, and let's go ahead and add it to the screen and see what that looks like. Once again, this is updating the dictionary for the customer table, the associated BIE views that have a customer in it. So now all these user-defined fields are available. I'm sorry, Business Insights Reporter views. They're automatically available to the BIE views as well. So now you can do some analysis on those. So if I go into Customizer Selection, and I choose my Accounts Receivable module, and we'll get to the Customer Maintenance, and we'll go to PMain. Okay, so you'll notice that I put the lookup on there because it knows it's validating against the user-defined table. And we can even go ahead and put the description right next to it. And we do that by not choosing the main data source, but the territory data source, EDF territory. So we'll grab the description and place that there. And we'll get rid of this label here. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this, and we'll see what we got. So I go up to Accounts Receivable, choose Customer Maintenance. Here's my field. So now I've got a validated lookup where I can say this guy belongs to California. Got my description there, and I'm good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break and fill the territory field in on all these customers. Okay, back. So I went ahead and updated the territory field for all these guys. So let's just jump right over to BIE and see what we can do with that. So I call it my customer view. We already have a new customer analysis set up, and that's source of radio. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and add the territory field. So I open up my customer table, and now my user-defined field is going to be down here. And we'll just change the caption here. And so now all that charting that I did by count, I've got this by referred by right now. Now I can look at that by territory and see my customers by territory. So very simple thing to do, and I'll go ahead and save this so that it's available to you guys when I send this out. And then we can also go into the sorry, here, let me drill in, open the preview by period. I'm going to go ahead and add, well, let's go ahead and add all of these guys. Well, I'll territory for now, then I won't make you sit through all this. But now I can do dollars, cost of sales, group by territory. So some quick sales analysis to see where things are happening. We'll go ahead and save this off for you. I'll go ahead and add all of the other fields as well, so you can do it by those fields that we did in the survey demo. Fields in addition to the territory, as well as the customer type. What I'm also going to do is add a calculated field called profit. And that's going to come from my customer sales history table. I'm going to say that it's dollars sold. I just double clicked on that, it pasted the column up there. I'm going to hit the minus sign, and then cost of goods sold. Okay. On the format, I'm going to say that's a currency field, and that's all I really need to do. So now when I come over here to my chart, I've got the ability to take a look at my profit as well. And now I can group these by any of these user-defined fields. So if I want to see by customer type, by age, by gender, any of these things, territory. And then you can sort these by profit, ascending or descending, so however you want to do that. And once again, this legend over here, you click on it to cycle through the different values. Okay, I can give it a title. I can say customer history by territory. Okay, I'll go ahead and save this. And one other thing that I can do is I can set this as my default setting, so that when I come in here, it's always going to be here. It's always going to come to this particular set of data to save my settings. So I don't always have to choose the setting from the Dropbox. So let me just show you what happens there. So I'm going to just come all the way out of here, go back into the customer view. I'm going to open up the preview. And see, I'm right in my customer analysis, so I can go right to it and just start analyzing the data there. Okay, so that's taking the territory field, just adding the customer, just doing some quick analysis based on the sales history. But let's say that we also want to track some invoice history detail to see what items those guys are buying. We don't have that information in this table, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back into user-defined field table maintenance. And we're going to, well, first thing I'm going to do is actually add this also to the ship to address table, because let's say I want to keep track of territory and history in terms of where it's being shipped to, not necessarily where the customer is. So I'm going to come into the sales order module here and find the ship to address table and edit field. So I'm going to go ahead and add the territory field here as well. Once again, manual entry, and on the validation, we'll validate it against the UDT territory. Okay, so now that I've got it in both the customer and the ship to address, what I want to do now is say, from data entry on our table and or ship to table, and flow that in through to the sales order header, then we'll take that through to the invoice, and then through the posting all the way up into the invoice history table. So first thing I'm going to do is take the sales order header table, and I'm going to add that territory field to the header. Okay, so on this particular one, I'm going to choose business object, because I'm going to say that whenever I enter in my customer number, I want the territory to flow from the customer field into the sales order header. So just think of this as when I type in the customer number anyway, where I'm getting all that information like the ship to address and the bill to address and the terms code and the salesperson, we're also going to be bringing this territory field against that table. And that's really only necessary if you're actually going to put this field on the screen. You may want this to flow just behind the scenes, and that's actually how we're going to do this one. But from a VI import standpoint, you wouldn't want a bogus information to get in there. So it's still good to validate against that table. Okay, so that's going through the sales order header. Now I'm going to take the invoice header and add the territory field there as well. That's also going to be from a business object. And from the data source, that's actually going to be my sales order number, because when I type in the sales order, that's when I want to grab the territory code from the sales order and bring it over to the invoice. From a validation standpoint, I still want to validate that against the territory table. What I'm going to do here is go over to the data sources tab, because I could have a one-step invoice where I'm not coming from a sales order. So where is this territory going to come from? So this is a new thing we haven't covered yet. I have a duplicate row button over here, and what that allows me to do is, for the row I'm on, is open up another row in the grid, and now I can choose a different data source. So what I can say here is, when I type in the customer, I want the territory to come from the customer. And you can take this as many levels as you need to. In fact, what we want to do also is, if the ship to code changes, we want to take the territory from the ship to code before I ship it out. So if you see what's happening here, when I'm in invoice data entry, I hit the next invoice number. I don't necessarily have to have an existing sales order number, but if I do enter a sales order number, it's going to take that territory field from that sales order and flow that in through to the invoice header. If I'm doing a one-step, or if for some reason I'm changing the customer number, which is unlikely if you're coming from an existing sales order, but if I'm saying that on a one-step, that when I type in the customer, I want that territory to come from the customer table, and whenever I change the ship-to code, I want the territory to come from the ship-to table. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that. And now we've got it all through to the invoice table. So I know I needed that in the data entry file, so how do I determine, so like we did in a previous example where we were taking, I believe, the project code all the way through to the detail in General Ledger, what you want to do is figure out the file that you want the destination to be. So in my case, this is the invoice history header. I'm going to go ahead and edit fields. I'm going to enter in this dummy one because I'm not going to save it. And I want to see, for the sales journal update, what are my tables? Okay, so I only have one. It's AR transaction posting. So that's the table that I need to add my UDF to get that field to flow into the invoice history header. So what you're really doing is working backwards from the destination table to figure out where you need to source it from. So just some background, this transaction posting is a common format record. Sales order, perhaps someday job cost, it's all formats into a single record, and they all get posted the same way. So that's what this transaction posting table is. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of there, and I'm going to go to my transaction posting table, and I'm going to go ahead and add, and I'm going to see, I'm going to do the same thing with the dummy, just to see. So here I've got sales journal UPD. Okay, so SO invoice header, I've already added my UDF to that, so I can go ahead and use this one. So I'm going to cancel out of here. Then I'm going to add the territory field. And for the sales journal update, from the invoice header, I'm going to take this territory field. And now I'll go back into the invoice history header and source that, add that same UDF, and then source it from that transaction posting table. Okay, so we'll do business object, sales journal update, transaction posting, UDF territory. And the reason you have to work backwards there is because if I had tried to just add it here first, that territory field would not exist yet in the transaction posting table. So I had to go add that UDF to that field, so I was able to source it in here. Okay, so that's really all I need to do from a flow standpoint. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and modify the screens after it's done updating the dictionaries here. And I'm going to go ahead and close it. Well, we'll just minimize this. So now I'm going to go into customizer selection. Well, actually, let's look at the ship to addresses. So I'm just going to call it up, go into ship code maintenance, and here, oops, that's shipping rate, sorry. Primary ship to. So this is the field I want to add, this is the form I want to add the territory to. So I'm just going to hit the Control F9, and remember I can Control F9 or right click anywhere, or not on all forms, but Control F9 right here. I'm going to say all users, all companies. And so got a little extra real estate, so I'll go ahead and put this right here. There's my territory. Now we'll add the description right below it. And that's for my territory data source. Now if we go run this guy, and we bring up customer ABF, we got our primary ship to code of 2. Let's go ahead and add him to the territory of Nickum International, Wisconsin. Okay, so what I've done there is I've got here's all my other guys. So let's say ship to address 1, we'll make him Eastern. Okay. And his primary guy is California. So just kind of show you what's going to happen here. So now we want to go to sales order entry. And I'm just going to put this on for, and maybe we'll put it on as a disabled field, as just for demonstration purposes. But what we'll do is modify the already customized panel. Not a one, but we'll just kind of shove it right about here. And this is going to be our territory. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this caption next caption. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say this is a disabled field. Actually, we'll make it locked so that you can read it. How's that? Okay, so this is just for illustration purposes to show you how the data flows. You really don't have to put this on the form. It'll just automatically happen from the customer and the ship to address all the way through to the order. And I'm not even going to bother putting it on the invoice form. But if I come in here to sales order entry now, and I enter a new sales order, and I choose O1ABF. Okay, and then if I change the ship to address, didn't work because we did not set that flow up in the sales order entry. So let's jump back over there. Our problems run there. Actually, if everything works, you guys don't learn anything, right? So what I'm going to do is go into my sales order header and edit fields. And I'm going to go into my territory, and so this is what's missing here. It's only coming in from the customer. So I have to hit the duplicate here as well, so that when I change my ship to address, my ship to code, that it also brings in the territory. Okay. So now I've basically completed that flow. And now when we go back into sales order entry, if we're just done updating the dictionaries here. Now what's going to happen, to open O1ABF, and you see it went straight to international because I have a default ship to address. If I didn't have a default ship to address, it would leave what's in the customer. But the 2 is, if I modify this here, you can see it's international. If I change this to ship to address 1, it's going to go to Eastern. So now when I enter a sales order for this guy, go ahead and accept this. That's order number 186, I believe. Yes. So when I go to invoice that guy, it's gonna flow through as well, and then it'll post all the way through the history. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm not going to add it to the invoice screen. And we'll just kind of prove through that it actually flows. So I'm going to choose my order number 186 that I just did. I'll continue. ship all the lines, hit accept. Now I'm going to go ahead and print the sales journal off to deferred. Blow off the recaps and we'll go ahead and update it. And forget the DTR. So now what I should be able to do is go over into Business Insights Explorer, look at my customer history invoices view. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and add that territory field from the history header. Now I could also add it from the customer table if I'm only concerned with that, but this is actually coming from the history header table. And then I can come over here, and now that's my Eastern, because that's the one that I just posted. So that flowed all the way through from sales order into invoice all the way through the update. Now you can start doing some sales analysis with that. Do a little script that will actually update all of the history based on the ship to code or the customer code that's out there on that particular invoice, so that now, because you'll see all these existing ones, if I took off this filter, all these guys are blank. So how do you get that data out there? Traditionally, you'd have to do a VI job and import that information. But I'll show you how to use the business object interface to go ahead and update that information. So that basically concludes this demo. Thank you. Actually, I lied. I got some bonus coverage here that I wanted to cover. So I'm going to come back into the sales order header table, edit the fields. And for this territory, I want to go back to my data sources, because to really close the loop, if I want to copy from another sales order, I want the user to find, I want that territory to flow through from that source sales order into my current one. Similarly, if I'm going to copy something from the invoice history header, I want that also to come back. If I'm copying from history, I want that to come back as well. So one thing to know about the history table, the sales order history, is that's considered a mirror table. And what that means is whenever I add a user-defined field to the sales order header or the sales order header detail table, those automatically get applied to the sales order history headers. So that automatically that territory gets added. You don't have to go in. There's no way to add a user-defined field to the history itself. It's an automatic mirror of what's in the sales order header. But what this says is, copy order from history. I want that to flow through as well. And then, had I done anything with the RMAs, I'd want to go ahead and do that as well. But I haven't mapped that through. But we could certainly do that as well. In fact, let's do that. So hold on just a second. A return function to pass the UDF. I'm going to have to add the UDF territory to the return header table. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel, just OK out of this. And so I'm going to go with the RMA module. And we're going to go ahead and add the territory field to this table. Okay, we'll do that business object. And so here's the business objects. So there's also a generate transactions UPD, which will give us some more clues of what we may need to do. So if we want, when we're generating transactions, then we're also going to have this user-defined field in the RA receipts header. But for now, we're just going to worry about this business object and do the same things we essentially did over on the sales order side. So when the customer number changes, we want the territory to come and still validate that against the territory. At the data source, we're going to go ahead and hit the duplicate button, because if the ship to code changes, we also want the territory field to come in. Okay. So now I should be able to go back over into the sales order header and close that last loop on the territory flow. So this is saying when I create from an RMA, let's bring that territory over. Okay, so now you've got a complete flow throughout the system, from customer field, from customer maintenance and ship to maintenance, all the way through sales order to invoice history. When I'm copying from a sales order, or copying from invoice history, or copying from an order history, or even creating an RMA return. That territory field will flow just like any other MAS200 field. So that really does conclude our demo. Thank you very much.